If you could go back, what's one thing that you'd have started earlier?
I think the journaling, I wish I started way earlier. I wish that was something probably I started in the beginning, because I think in the beginning, when we talk about the phases, I think when you really don't know your body that well and kind of the changes, you really don't understand what phase you're in. And now I can just on any given day, kind of even without looking at my calendar or anything like that, I kind of know where I am based on how I'm feeling physically and emotionally. So I think if I started journaling from the beginning, I probably would have noticed those patterns way sooner. Just even certain research experiments or drug trials or medication trials and all this stuff, all the different variables that go on month to month with us, it's really hard to incorporate into the research data. So it's no wonder why women are so confused about so many things. There's just I keep saying the education, women don't even understand what's going on because they're not even being educated about what's going on.
If you have been watching the podcast for a while now, you'll have seen me wear these primitive athletic tops. They are now available, and I'm really excited because I work out in them a lot. I tend to work out quite hard, but I also like to be comfortable. So that's why when I was picking out the materials for this top, I went with a pure cotton. If you would like to get yourself a top and support the channel, they are available on my website, primitiveathletics.com. Athletics with an X. Hello and welcome back to PA Chalk Up. Today we have a Christmas episode and we are joined by someone that's been on before. Hello Anna, how are you doing?
Hi, good. How are you? Nice to
I'm
see
good.
you.
Nice to see you too. It's been a while. I think you were the second episode. By the time that this one comes out, I think it's the 19th or 20th.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy. Time's flying.
nice.
Congrats to you on all those episodes. I mean, that's a ton of work. So that's
To be
awesome.
fair, I just batch filmed them, which was really nice. So I could take a couple of weeks off and then go. But yeah, how have you been? What have you been up to?
Good, good. I feel like it's been a little bit hectic of a year, but definitely feel like things are starting to slow down. It's the holiday season. I also brought my little Christmas sweater. This is vintage from college. It says "Bro, where's the party?" with a little reindeer drinking beer on here. So I got this from a little store you may have never heard of called Walmart. So and I've had it for 7 years now. So
To be fair,
yeah.
I experienced Walmart when I was across there, and it's actually a really good supermarket. I
Oh my
thoroughly
gosh.
enjoyed myself.
They literally have anything you could ever want there, and it's just why I get overwhelmed walking in there if I'm
Mm,
ever in there for looking for something specific. I'm like, there's just too much there. But I feel like anybody that comes to the U.S. and goes to Walmart, they're just amazed at how big it is. It's crazy.
100%. What's your favorite
Yeah.
aisle?
Oh God, I don't even know. Maybe, I mean, honestly, I went a couple years ago to get this sweater. So I feel like the around Christmas time they always have good Christmas PJs and good sweaters. So that's probably my favorite to go there for.
Nice. I
Yeah.
should have said, so my Christmas jumper says, "Do you even gift?"
Oh, that's great.
And it's just someone giving the double buys.
Also, what's funny is I recently realized what a jumper is. I'm like, what the heck is a jumper? And you guys call a sweater a jumper? I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Yep.
Oh, I actually didn't even click onto that because when we
Yeah.
were organizing the podcast, you said Christmas sweater, and I was like, "All right." I just said Christmas jumper.
Yeah.
I didn't
There's so
even
many
click
things
actually.
like that. Yeah. I'm like, what is this called?
Nah. To be fair, I found that there is quite a lot of different words that we use compared to you guys.
I know. I'm trying to
So
think what else. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything right now, of course.
it's always the case.
Yeah.
So if you just let us know what you've been up to since the last episode.
Yeah. For if anyone, follows me on TikTok, I've been, trying to post just more content, more tips, more things that I've learned. I've still, been doing my workout calendars each month and kind of sharing how I organize those. I did release a cycle syncing journal in the end of the summer, early fall on Amazon. So I did that and really just trying to keep educating people, get the word out there more of kind of this method. I did talk to New York Magazine. They kind of had an article on cycle syncing, and so more and more people are kind of hearing about it and wanting to learn more about it. So really, for the last couple of months, I've just been focused on, still educating people and just sharing, more and more of what I've learned through doing this process. And, it's been about a year now since I started, which is kind of crazy. But I feel like I've just learned so much in the year, and it's really just been a lot of trial and error, and a lot of this stuff hasn't just come overnight. So it's been a long year, but I feel like I've learned so much in that year. So I've just been kind of trying to share with others what I've learned. So maybe it wouldn't take them as long to kind of like, learn what they need to know for themselves. So that's kind of what I've been up to.
Yeah, what are some of the things that you've sort of made mistakes on, and what did you learn from them?
Uh, I think just I can just start with like, the workout routine, for example. Like when I first started doing that, I was really conservative with some of the weeks I was resting, and I think, that was a good way to start. Just when I first started in like the end of my luteal phase and going into my menstrual phase, like I would have a whole week of resting, and well, that was really helpful. Like I kind of just started to trial and error, like, all right, maybe I'm gonna, only rest for a few days and still try and work out during these days and see how I feel. So I think, just trial and erroring all that and seeing what, I felt better with, and kind of like journaling about it. Like it kind of puts the pieces together for me of like what I feel good doing, what I don't feel good doing. But yeah, it's, I'm definitely not perfect with this method, and it's just a lot of like trying to figure out what works for you. And I feel like even in the beginning of the year when I started posting about this and sharing about it online, like I feel like I have changed some things and how I do things. So it really is kind of like an evolution throughout this whole process of just like learning what works for you.
Yeah, so how did the planner come about, and how have you sort of felt having that out there?
How did the what come about? I'm
Planner,
sorry.
planner.
Oh, the planner. Yeah. So for the calendar, I was originally just using like a blank piece of paper. And then I thought, like, you know what, I need to really organize this into a calendar that would make it easy for me. So I actually designed it myself, and did a couple of trials on what I liked, what I didn't like. And I just like basically wanted a blank slate to organize, my thoughts for the month and my workouts for the month. So that was kind of how I went about, designing that. And it was, a few months of just kind of doing it on like a blank piece of paper and realizing like what I liked and didn't like. So, what I do like about it is it's like a blank slate. So, you can kind of customize it and make it your own. So that's kind of what I wanted for myself and wanted to share with people. So that's kind of how that came about.
Yeah, and what are some of the feedback that you've had from the planner?
I feel like it's been all really positive. I think for, a lot of people have mentioned that it just makes it so much easier, you know, um, organizing your thoughts and, writing stuff down every day and kind of keeping track of where you are. Um, it's it just makes it so much easier to kind of track how you're feeling, and day to day you might forget about certain things, but when you're tracking it in a journal and writing about it, it just makes so much sense when you can look back and be like, oh, this is why I was feeling this way, I'm at this point in my cycle. So I feel like that's just been very, very helpful. And actually, one thing too that I felt was really helpful for myself as well is, I've been using this journal religiously since I developed it, but I recently had my annual doctor's appointment for my gynecology exam, and I literally walked in there with my journal, and I kind of like had some questions and had some things to talk about with my doctor, which like before I probably would have walked in there and been like, oh, I don't really know everything. I think everything's fine. Everything feels good. But just to have like the kind of like that security blanket of like, this is kind of what's been going on the past couple of months, and just to kind of remind you of things you might want to talk about with your doctor, anything like that. So I feel like that was one thing that was really helpful this year, by using that journal and being a little bit more like in tune with what's going on in my body and just how I'm feeling.
Yeah, how do you space out the time to write in this journal?
So I usually do it first thing in the morning. It's just like for me the best way to start the day, and in the journal I kind of like have it laid out with like going through what your phase is, and then I have like a little box for gratitude, a little box for what I'm looking forward to for the day, and then kind of just like today's thoughts. And kind of how I have it broken down is just I feel like it's kind of like a way to prime your brain in like a positive way when you first wake up. So I always love to, write down a few things I'm grateful for, write down a few things I'm looking forward to. And then also just like today's thought is like a blank slate for a total brain dump. So you kind of
Mm.
just wake up, and if you have anything that you just need to get out on paper, I feel like once I complete that exercise for the day, it kind of just makes me feel like I'm starting the day off on like a clear note. Like if I have anything in my brain that I just need to get out on paper, and then I feel like it's like a positive start to the day. So that was kind of the inspiration behind creating the journal, and then just trial and error and figuring out what worked for me. And I figured starting my day off on a positive note was like the best way for me to start the day. So
100%. It gives you some perspective of what's happening as well, which I think is pretty sick.
yeah.
Um, when it comes to sort of, you kind of mentioned that when you go to your doctor's appointment, you've got sort of recall. How beneficial have you found that?
Yeah, like I feel like I said, before, especially when you're going in like once a year, just for like a checkup, I feel like, you walk in there and it's just kind of like routine, like, oh yeah, everything's fine and whatever. I feel like there's just like certain things I wrote down and just way more detailed about like, what's going on. And I feel like my doctor was like, whoa, like you actually, have, really detailed notes about like what's been going on with you this year. And I don't know. I feel like it's just good to have a dialogue instead of just,
Mm,
going in there and being like, oh, everything's fine, this, that, and the other thing. And I feel like it just, if there was issues going on, they might be able to, do further testing or anything like that, or like catch certain things, or, certain things you might think are normal that aren't, like you can chat about with your doctor. So I feel like it's just a really good positive thing to have going in. And one thing I've noticed just with health in general, I don't know if it's like this in the UK, but in the US, you really have to be like your own advocate, especially when you're going into the doctor. Just they're just seeing so many people day to day, and they don't have a lot of time to spend with you. So when you do have the few minutes with them, when you're talking to them, I feel like you really have to be like kind of on your A game of like,
mm,
okay, I want to talk to them about this, this, and this, because not that they're half listening, but sometimes it feels that way when they have so many patients to see in a day. So you really have to be your own advocate and make sure you're pushing for things and just, getting like the help you need with certain
yeah.
things.
No, it's the exact same here. You kind of have to fight a battle before you get seen by someone. And the thing is, like,
Yeah.
because the health care system here is free, there's a
Hmm.
lot of people that just try their luck at certain things, and then that makes it harder for people who are genuinely concerned about that thing to get through to see the right people as well. So it's
Yeah.
the constant battle between, yeah, it's good, but it takes a while, especially with COVID as well. Like they're still trying to make their way through some of those lists, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, that is wild. I know. I feel like COVID kind of upended everything too. So that's definitely been a challenge for like our healthcare system as well. But yeah, it feels like just on any given, doctor's appointment you have, it feels like you're just kind of it feels like you're waiting in the waiting room for a while, and then by the time you get back there, like, all right, I have 5 minutes, what do you got? And you're like, and you like need to be kind of like on your game of what you want to talk about. So
Yeah. So since you've started the journals, what have you sort of picked up on that you do better with than what you previously thought?
I think the biggest thing for me, and actually for like some of my friends that have been using this, my one friend mentioned to me, she's like, it just takes like the mystery of like why I'm feeling a certain way a certain day. And I feel like that's so true. It's just, again, made me like way more in tune with like what's going on with me, like physically and emotionally. And just like tracking this, like, for example, it's kind of funny. Like earlier this morning, I was actually doing my workout and I was watching, I don't know if you watched on TV the Beckham documentary on Netflix.
I
I don't know if
refuse.
you watched that, but I was watching that this morning while I was like working out, and it was like towards the end of the documentary, it was like showing him retiring in his last game, and he's like tearing up coming off the field. And I started like tearing up. I was like, oh my God, this is so sad. I'm like, why am I crying at a Beckham documentary right now? And then I was like, oh, I'm actually like in the end of my luteal phase right now. So this like checks out why I'm feeling so emotional watching like a Netflix documentary. And it was like, it took me sitting down like after doing my workout to like doing my journal and being like, okay, I'm in this phase. This is how I'm feeling. But it's funny that now I'm just way more in tune with that side of things. Or before I would be like, why am I feeling this way? Like, this is so confusing. Like, I feel good this day and I don't feel good this day. So I feel like it feels validating, and it takes the mystery out of like certain things.
Do you think there's a problem with, I'm going to say men because it's not usually you that feel this way, but men tend to blame a lot of things about the way that women reacts on their periods. Do you think it's
Mm-hmm.
been easier for you to identify those?
I think so, yeah. And I think what it comes down to too is just like education. Like, I think in the past, like, men have probably made comments of like, oh, this and that about a woman getting her period, and it's always been kind of like a joke, the butt of jokes for like years and years. But I feel like it's also just like a lot of people just don't understand what's um like physically happening with
Mhm.
hormones and emotionally how women are feeling. Like, there's just a lot of people are just naive about it, and I think if they kind of like learned what was going on, they'd be more understanding and be like, okay, I kind of get it. Like, it's not fully in your control how you're feeling on every given day. So I think it all comes down to education and people just really not understanding that this is what's happening.
Yeah, on the last podcast, we talked a lot about this. Was that we don't think that boys and girls should be split during those talks, and that you're
Yeah.
100% right. Like, the earlier that boys can get these talks, the easier it is for us to understand what exactly is going on. Because I remember, like, the girls got taken out to a different classroom, boys stayed in one side playing, and I
Yep.
was like, what are they talking about? So, and then when the girls came back and were like, oh, what did you talk about? What did you talk about? And they were like, nothing. I was like,
Yeah.
all right.
They didn't want to. They didn't want to bring it up. They didn't want to be the ones to break the news to you.
No, but I do think early intervention is probably key to sort of
Oh
making
yeah.
these conversations
And
more.
I feel like it's crazy. Like, I mean, definitely a lot of men don't know about this, but there's still a lot of women that don't know about this. Like, there's certain women that comment on the content that I make, and I've had certain women be like, I'm like in my 40s and I never knew this. Like, I'm just learning this now. Like, thanks for pointing this out. Like, and I like always respond back, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I wish I learned this years and years ago. Like, this would be something that's so helpful if we all learned this in school, both men and women. Like, I always joke around like this is kind of like a almost like a hack for men. Like, if you understand how this stuff works, like I feel like that's just like understanding how women are. And like it's I feel like if I always joke around with my boyfriend, like, take notes, like, here's my notes from like my content, like, put this on your desk so you know what's going on. Like, and I feel like he's learned a ton through all of this too. But it's just so helpful for him to understand all this stuff. So not only is it important for like a woman to know what's going on with her, but for partners to understand, just so they can be supportive and there for you in different ways. It feels like it helps a lot of maybe communication errors that
Mhm.
might have happened in the past. So
To be fair, I can 100% vouch for this because I am a man and I do have a girlfriend, and it does make it easier to sort of know why she's feeling the way she is at certain
hmm
points of the month. Like, I know when she's coming up to it because there'll be certain conversations that's happening or certain things maybe get to her a little bit more. Like, we're always like, we like to sort of mock each other a little bit, not in a mean and malicious way, but just like have little fun digs at
yeah,
each other. But like, if I throw one and she gets hurt by it, I know that for that time being, I'll apologize because it maybe was my fault genuinely, but I also know what she might be going through, so I'll just stop.
Yep.
until
Yep.
it comes back around. Is
Smart
that
man.
something you felt as
Smart
well?
man. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, definitely that different conversations. But we kind of joke about it too. Like even like I mentioned like the David Beckham thing. Like even certain movies, if we're watching a movie and I'm like bawling my eyes out, he's like, "Are you okay?" And then I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just going through it right now." Like I think he just knows like certain things like that. But it also is just funny like him kind of following along like on the days I don't have coffee. He's like, "Oh, I didn't make you coffee here because I know today's your tea
Mm,
day," or like stuff like that. And with my workouts too, uh, we most times we do work out a lot together, but like he'll know like, oh, this is my lifting day, this is my walk. Like he's kind of just um, really in tune with like my schedule and like what I'm doing, which is nice. So I feel like it's just brought us closer, and obviously he's learned a lot through this process. So
yeah, we need to have him on too.
I know, get their
um,
perspective.
yeah. With your TikTok that you've mentioned, what are some of the usual comments that you get, and how do you sort of try and help?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is, I feel like the number one comment is just, why didn't I learn about this earlier? A lot of comments saying that the way that I've broken things down is been really helpful. Um, I spend a lot of time like thinking through this content and how to deliver it in a way that would make sense to people. I like things broken down on like a very simple level. So that's kind of what my focus is when I'm sharing about this stuff. And then I think like a lot of people just don't know where to start, and if they want to start doing this method, kind of like where to go. Um, what worked for me was when I first started this method, I kind of tried to learn as much as I could at first, and then literally just kind of like jump in and just try it and go with it. Like I think a lot of times women are like want to get everything perfect and they don't want to
Mm,
start. But I think the most important thing is just starting and going from there. And like I said, my whole journey with this has evolved so much since I started. So I keep telling women like just give it a try, do trial and error, figure out what works for you. What works for me might not work for somebody else. So it really is just about people trying to incorporate this in their lives and figuring out what works for them.
if you could go back, what's one thing that you'd have started earlier?
I think the journaling, I wish I started way earlier. I've probably been doing this for about 4 or 5 months now. I
Mm,
wish that was something probably I started in the beginning, because I think in the beginning, when we like talk about the phases, I think when you really don't know your body that well and kind of like the changes, you really don't understand what phase you're in. And now like I can just on any given day kind of, even without looking at my calendar or anything like that, I kind of know where I am based on how I'm feeling like
mm.
physically and emotionally. So I think if I started journaling from the beginning, I probably would have like noticed those patterns way sooner. But that was just something that took a lot longer for me to
Mm,
figure out.
yeah. Do you use any apps at all?
At the moment, I'm trialing a few things, but not really. That's something I want to figure out in the new year. But mostly I've just been writing it down, which has been helpful for me. And it's kind of funny. I kind of crack up at how many views some of the videos I share of me like writing things down. And in the beginning, I was always kind of like, are people going to even like think this is helpful? But for me, because I spend so much time in front of a screen, I feel like sometimes just physically writing things out, stuff sticks more. And I don't know, it's just kind of nice to have a little break from a screen sometimes. So,
Yeah, 100%. And I do think there's this theory that if you write it down, there's more chance that you'll remember it and have that recall than
right.
anything else.
Hmm.
Um, with your TikTok, you are currently doing a run up to Christmas. Can you just talk
Hmm.
through that and explain some of the processes behind it?
Yeah, so right now I'm doing 25 days of cycle syncing on TikTok. So I have like a bunch of content slated for all 25 days leading up to Christmas. And basically, what I wanted to use this as was sort of like a TikTok wrap, almost of like everything that I've learned this year through cycle syncing. So I have all this different content kind of like slated for this month, but things like different workout ideas, kind of tips on how to incorporate food. I have different workout routines and just like it's really just like tips and tricks of kind of like everything I've learned throughout the whole year, kind of condensed into 25 days of this month. So I've released a few. I'm really excited about some of the other stuff I'm releasing later in the month. So it's been a lot of planning and a lot of organizing. So but yeah, that's kind of what I'm focused on and sharing in the next few days here on TikTok.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions because I went through them and I found one in particularly very, but very interesting. And it's the Yuka app. Could you just give us a little
Mm-hmm.
rundown on what that is and why that's important?
Yeah, so actually, apparently the app originally started in Europe. I think that's where it was originally based. But I heard about this app through a family friend, and basically, how it works is you just scan the barcode of different beauty products, makeup, and you can use it for food as well. And if you scan it, it basically tells you like the ingredients, kind of like how healthy it is, and especially for the makeup and beauty cosmetic products, there's just so much stuff in some of those things that you don't realize, and it kind of labels things for you, tells you what they are. When I first started cycle singing, I learned about this thing called endocrine disruptors, which I never knew about, and basically it's certain ingredients and products that can really really affect your hormones. And when I first read that, I was like, I've never heard of this before. I had kind of like learned it when I first started learning about this process. And then a few months later, when my family friend mentioned that app, I'm like, oh, I'm going to try it. I scanned all of my makeup, all of my face cleanser, lotions, all that type of stuff. And basically, all of my stuff came back horrible. And like some of the stuff was advertised as like, oh, this is clean, this is not. And you just don't know what's in some of the stuff you're
Mm.
putting on your body every single day. And I was so horrified. It's funny. I just posted that TikTok, and one of my best friends texted me and sent me a picture of her trash can, and she was like showing all the products she had thrown out. She was like, "All of my makeup like got rated so bad," and it's kind of eye opening once you start doing that of just like what to look for and educate yourself on what you're buying and what you're putting on your body because
Yeah.
it can make a huge difference.
What was the most surprising one for you?
I think the most surprising for me was I feel like it was just some of the makeup because some of the makeup brands they just have such loose requirements with marketing.
Mhm.
So some of the stuff I'm like, oh, this is clean and advertises clean beauty, and comes back with like the app labels them as hazardous ingredients, and I'm like, it's just kind of wild to me that they can advertise that way, and you see some of the things that are in there, and that was probably the most eye opening for me. And kind of like another funny little anecdote, I walked into an Ulta, or no, I was in Sephora, and they have salespeople on the floor for different brands and stuff, and there was a saleswoman kind of selling one of the more luxury makeup brands. And she's like, oh, like come try our foundation. It's all clean ingredients and yada yada yada. And she walked away, and I like scanned it, and it got an absolute zero, and I was like, oh, this is just crazy. Like, and
Yeah.
also these products aren't cheap. So that's the part that kind of blows my mind is that people are paying a lot of money for certain cosmetics and makeup, and they're really not made with the best ingredients sometimes. So you just really have to be careful what you're putting on your body. And again, it just comes down to education. It's just being
Mm.
educated about what you're buying and what's in the things you're using every single day.
Yeah, so I did a nutrition course a while back, and something that we were sort of taught was to analyze the product before buying. So essentially, in the UK, you can buy yogurts of fruit flavors, but that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily mean that they have fruit in it. The one way to see if it has fruit or not, if it has a picture of a fruit, if it's got a piece of fruit on it, it's at least 3% fruit. which is a crazy
Oh, that's
statistic.
interesting.
3% of it has to be through for it to have a picture in it. If it's not, obviously it doesn't. But that could mean that to save money, that company could just put 3% in some of the products, and that's fine, sell it. But to know that you're essentially putting all this stuff in that might not actually be what you want to eat as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Even with the food, like there was just some things that were surprising to me, and it was mostly, again, things that were advertised as maybe healthy, and then they had like additives in them that you would never think about, and you're like, why do I have to read line by line every single ingredient? I think the U.S. is a little bit more lenient about what they put in things, where I know like the EU is a little bit more strict with certain things. And I know people mention all the time there's certain things that are banned in the EU that are available in the US. So it's like you just really have to like educate yourself and be aware of those type of things. So
Yeah, one of the most frustrating ones that I know of is Kinder eggs. You don't have them there because it's a choking hazard.
oh really?
Yeah, so it's like an egg, and it has like the yellow egg inside, and then you get a toy. But because
Oh,
some kids swallowed it in America, they banned it.
oh really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that. That's so
they
random.
are. I'll show you what they are. They are amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Let me
Um,
see.
when I saw this, I was furious. I was like, no, because like this is legit one of my favorite chocolates.
Oh, I feel like I have seen those, but that's so interesting.
Yeah,
So
I was like,
we're gonna ban a chocolate egg, but we're not gonna ban all these additives and stuff that are in like all of our other stuff.
legit, legit. Which
Oh,
like it does kind of make you wonder, like what is getting passed around, like without people knowing. Sweeteners is a big one. You should look at like the type of sweeteners that there is in whatever you're eating.
yeah, I feel like that's another thing. Actually, I feel like in the new year, I kind of want to focus on. I feel like sugar is just in everything. And for the most part, like I don't add sweetener or sugar to like a lot of the things that I eat. I generally my palate, I just like things like I don't like a lot of sweets. Like I'm more of like a
Mm,
salty kind of gal. So I don't add like sugar, like even my coffee, I take that very plain. And like most things that people would probably add sugar to, like I'll do like a substitute of like honey, like raw local honey or something like that to make it a little bit more healthier. So I'm definitely aware of kind of trying to
mm,
not consume as much sugar, but sometimes it's in everything, like certain, things you wouldn't even think of, like barbecue sauce, certain sauces, like condiments, stuff like that. It's just hidden in like a ton of things. So
mm.
um, I think that's something
You're
in the new
right.
year I kind of want to focus on and try to avoid more of those added sugar products.
Yeah, my mom's actually been on a sort of health kick recently, and she's cut out like big sugars.
Hmm.
We have a very different opinion on what sugar is, me and my mom, but she's trying.
Yeah,
And she's lost 10 kilograms.
it's
It's
crazy.
wild.
Even just over the past couple of weeks, just because it's been like the holidays around here, I've definitely been having my fair share of sweets, and I just like noticed small changes. Like my skin doesn't look as nice. Like I feel like it just affects you in ways you really don't realize. It definitely has big effects. So I think I said to my boyfriend Matt, I'm like, maybe in the new year, I think I need to go on like a little sugar detox. Like
Mm,
definitely around the holidays, I'll be, having my fair share of sweets. But then in the new year, I kind of want to do like a little detox just to make myself feel a little bit better. Um, yeah, so that's kind of my plan for
everyone needs it.
2024. Yeah.
I When I was writing up my dissertation, um, I went from a phase where like essentially the month before it was due, I would have like a monster or two every day, and I would have coffee on top of it as well.
Oh my gosh.
So I was just like rattling the whole time.
Oh my
When
God.
I
How is your
finished,
heart not like? How is your
exploded.
heart not leaping out of your chest? I'd be like,
Good
I'd have so much
question.
anxiety.
To be fair, I am a big coffee drinker naturally, so like
Yeah.
it didn't really do much. Like there was a time where I was having like coffees at 11 at night, and I was fine. I fell asleep a couple hours later.
Oh my God. That's
Um,
crazy.
but after it finished, like the day it finished, I stopped drinking it. Like I stopped drinking coffee and sort of any type of energy juice, and like I got the worst migraines of my
Oh
life.
yeah,
Like it lasted 2 days. I was like, this isn't nice because it was
yeah,
just like I was just coming down from all that energy. It was wild.
yeah. The caffeine withdrawals are real. Which actually, so on the days that I don't drink coffee, one of the things I started doing, I don't know if you've ever heard of like noon hydration tablets. They're
Hmm.
basically just like these little tablets you can throw in like the electrolyte tablets. On the days that I don't drink coffee, I do notice, I have like a little bit of that caffeine withdrawal. So first thing in the morning, before I even make like tea or anything, I just plop a hydration tablet in water and I drink that first thing. I feel like that just helps so much with because a lot of the headache and all that is probably due to dehydration. So I'm really
Hmm.
just towards the end of my luteal phase, right before I get my period, I'm really focused on just hydrating myself and it's amazing what cutting out coffee does. Just the withdrawals. But I have found that the electrolyte tablets have really helped with that. So
There's this brand that I like. It's called Drip Drop. Um,
okay,
and they're really good electrolytes. I get a lot of migraines, and they help a lot as well. Like
okay.
if you feel one coming on, like overhydrating, it's probably a good thing because like your brain's just in a type of shutdown mode. So hydrating is a big thing for me as well.
Isn't it amazing how much just drinking water can affect your health? Like it's such a simple thing, and you just never think about it.
Yeah, and the thing is, obviously, like electrolytes are becoming a little bit more popular. So like these types of drinks are becoming very like harder to come by. You can make
Hmm.
homemade electrolytes, whereas just water, salt, because electrolytes is a sodium, sodium is salt. Um, I personally like to throw in some diluting juice just to give it some flavor, or you could just
Yeah.
drink salt and water. You're getting your electrolytes and sodium in.
Oh, and salt water is definitely hard to. I think that's why I like the tablets because there's like a little bit of flavor.
Flavor.
But I've tried like quite a few, and the thing I do like about Noon, which I feel like because these electrolyte tablets are so popular now, some of them just have so much sugar in them.
Hmm.
So you kind of got to be aware of what type you're getting. But I found the Noon are pretty balanced. Like they work really well, and they're not as high in sugar. And some of the flavors of different brands I've tried, I really don't like, but I really like that the Noon is pretty mild flavors as well.
Hmm.
So
For me, it's the SIS stuff. They're a really good product, but the flavors I just can't deal with. I've tried a
yeah,
lot as well. There's a lot of trial and
yeah.
error with these things.
Oh, 100%. I've gone through a ton, so I'm not like I'm like a very plain. I'm not big on like all these crazy flavor. Like I just want something super plain. So the Noon flavor that I drink is called Orange Sunrise, and it's very mild. So I'd rather
Mm,
almost have it taste like I'm drinking water versus like a flavored drink. So
fair. In terms of coffees, and obviously you don't have them when you're on or coming onto your period. What are some alternatives that you use? I know this is another one of your TikTok videos, but I'm going to let you explain it.
yeah, so my big thing, cause so when I'm normally drinking coffee, I love to make like a homemade cappuccino or a latte. We have a cappuccino machine in our house that we use religiously. Well, not towards the end of my luteal phase, but any other day, I'm using that religiously. But the one thing I kind of came up with was a tea latte, which I never
Mm,
even really had drank those before. But I posted the TikTok video. It's a lavender tea latte, and basically I just brew this lavender chamomile tea, add a little bit of honey and vanilla extract to it, and then I add frothed almond milk. And it feels like I'm basically drinking the same thing. Like it feels like a latte, so it doesn't feel like a huge change from not drinking coffee. So that's been my go-to substitute when a few days before my period. And I feel like also I just love the taste of that tea, and the chamomile is very calming. So it's kind of helping me relax those days leading up to my period. So yeah, that's kind of my go-to drink. And right now I'm drinking it hot, but in the summer I would drink it iced. So it's pretty versatile.
mm.
Yeah, so that's been my go-to favorite right now.
Yeah. In terms of the Yuka app, thing. When you found these products that were perhaps not the best for you, what did you supplement them with? Like, what were the alternatives?
You mean for just like cosmetics and stuff, or just the food as well?
Both. Yeah.
Okay. So the interesting thing too is on the app, it does give you recommendations. Like it has some recommendations of products that have scanned better that you could try. So that gives you like some ideas of like, oh, maybe I could try this product. For me, I kind of just it was this whole year has been trial and error for me. So I've spent a lot of time just like researching different products and trying certain things, and um, that was probably the thing that worked for me the most. Was really just it was a lot of trial and error. So I'd buy a product, see if I liked it, and then if I did, I'd share about it. But right now, I haven't shared too much on TikTok, like the specific products that I like, because again, like if I'm gonna share a product online that I'm like, this is like my favorite, it is something that I've tried for at least 6 months
Mm.
to a year, because like I don't want to just be like, pushing something I really don't believe in. So if I share anything online, it's something that I've like extensively trialed, that I really, really like, and that I've truly spent money, like my own money on, like not that I'm just getting sent something just to put it in an ad. So I really, really just love trialing things for a long period of time. And I feel like most of, like I found a deodorant that I really like by this company, Primarily Pure, that I've been using for about a year now. I'm still kind of like trialing like shampoos and conditioners
Mm.
and stuff like that. Same thing with like face products. I've been using a bunch of different stuff and haven't really settled on something I truly, truly love. So I've been trying like more expensive products and less expensive products, like really just trying to find like the happy medium. So I have spent quite a bit of money trying to figure out what I really, really like, but at the end of the day, I feel like, I'm putting in a lot of effort just, towards my health. That's kind of how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, well, it'll work out in the end because I'll be, using cleaner things. So
I
stay
think
tuned for more like coming on that. But
I think staying true to what you believe as well is it's a good way of doing it, because then people can tell if you're just pushing a product to push it, or if like
oh,
you're
100%.
genuinely interested in it. What's one thing that you've tried that you're just like, yeah, like I'm going to stick with this one?
I think my favorite so far has been the deodorant, because uh, I've tried years, like probably for 5 or so years. I feel like natural deodorant started becoming a thing, like probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And I've tried so many, and some of them don't work at all, which like I'm a very active person, so I need a deodorant that actually works so I don't smell all day. So I've tried like a ton of things like that, and then also something that's truly, truly clean. So I feel like it's been a long journey, but I really love that Primally Pure deodorant is the deodorant I've been using for over a year now. And their company really, really does a good job in the quality. And that's kind of my go-to deodorant right now. So that's kind of my favorite.
Is it this one?
Yep. Yeah. Do they ship to the UK?
Right. Apparently, yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so they have a lot of really, really great products. And right now, I said the deodorant's my favorite. I literally just like 2 weeks ago um, got some of their face products and lotions and stuff. So I'm like kind of using that now to see how I like it. But stay tuned for that. But yeah, their stuff is just really, really high quality, and I really love their products.
Nice. What apart from the deodorant would you recommend?
They have like a lot of the one thing I'm using right now, they have something called Everything Balm, which is kind of like you can use it for a bunch of different things. It's kind of like multi-use, but I've been using it on my face at night because the air has been so dry and cold here in the Northeast. So that's something I've been using before I go to bed at night, and I feel like it does a good job moisturizing my face at night. So that's like one thing I really, really like. And um, they also have like body butters, which I've been using a lot because my skin's so dry. Like just the change in seasons are always really, really harsh on my
Hmm.
skin. So I've just been doing everything I can to try and keep myself moisturized because my like skin has just felt so dry lately.
Fair. When it comes to working out, what are some of the psychological impacts that you've found before your menstrual cycle and afterwards, or during it as well?
Yeah, I feel like with working out, like I said, this is kind of the week leading up to my period, so it's more of like my luteal phase. Like I just noticed I'm a little bit more tired working out this week, and I've said this to you before, like 15-pound weights feel like 50-pound weights. So like this is kind of like a week I'll still lift, but I'll take it a little bit on the easier side. I feel like people have asked me in the past, like, do you change up your weights, throughout your cycle and anything like that? I really try not to, but if it is a week where I'm feeling like very, very like, oh, I'm just like completely exhausted, I will take a little bit of weight off, and just kind of
Mm.
like take it easy. But I try not to do that just for like progress wise, but it really just depends, and just like listening to my body. But just giving myself the space the week before my period to, take it easy. And then I've also just realized the first 2 days of my period are so rough, and I'm like kind of like down for the count. And then I feel like day three, I'm like on the incline, and I start to feel great again. So um, pretty much like just a few days after I get it, I feel kind of like back to normal. But I would say like those few days before and like the first
Mm.
two is when I'm just like down for the count, and I really, really need to be like kind to myself during those days. And then after that, I feel like I can like bounce back pretty quickly.
Yeah, I've sort of been talking to you about my research and what I wanted to do, and I've came up with this theory. It's not anywhere near accurate or proven just now, but so the 2 weeks beforehand, you're usually your strongest, and then the week of your period, you feel weak and just down, and the week after, you're sort of like slowly coming up again.
Hmm.
So what I'm thinking about just now is like, what if we did sort of a type of undulating periodization program? So the first 2 weeks are like super heavy, heavy. The third week, which is essentially your own week, is light.
Hmm.
Your last week is like medium. So it's building up to that very heavy, heavy, light, medium, and then it just sort of undulates that way. So then essentially, what I'm thinking, anyways, that makes sense to me, is that you climb, drop, climb, climb, drop, climb, climb, drop. That's making sense to me. I obviously need to
Yep.
put this into practice first.
No, yeah. I mean, that's I feel like that's a good way of explaining it, because you're still getting that progress, but you're not burning yourself out. And that's kind of one of the things I've realized with, doing this method is I feel like after doing this for a year, I feel like my physical progress is just more consistent. Like
Mm,
years ago when I would work out, I feel like my weight would, or like my progress would yo-yo a few pounds here and there, and it was because I would be on like a very strict training regime. I would go all out, like 150%, like 24/7, and I'd be in really, really good physical shape. And then I would just get so sick of my workout. I would be so bored with it. I was just like so totally burnt out, and then I feel like I would take a few weeks off and then completely lose whatever progress I
mm,
had. So instead of like going all out and completely dropping off, like you said, it's kind of like that gradual like climb towards your progress. That's totally how I feel with doing this right now. So I feel like it's just way more sustainable, and I feel
mhm.
throughout the year physical progress is way more even climb than I've been in the past.
Yeah, I do think like there's some way that it kind of makes sense to me, but obviously you might be able to shed a little bit more light onto this. But with the theory that I've got, if you are going light on obviously when you're on your period, do you think you'll have more energy availability for the coming week?
I think so, because for me personally, like I don't feel as burnt out. Like where if you're really exhausted one day and you're just like pushing yourself, like you're only gonna like empty your tank even more. Where if like you're just taking it a little bit easier on yourself, I I personally feel like it's easier to bounce back stronger a few days later, just from like my personal experience.
Yeah. No, like it is making sense, and I'm really excited to start this. And that's why
Yeah,
like the psychology side is
I can be your guinea pig for this.
Fair. I would like that a lot. Because like the thing is as well, like we've previously spoke, and I feel like a very big imposter in this industry because obviously I'm not a woman. I don't have to go through it. So when I'm speaking to women about it, I'm just like, do you actually take anything that I say serious? Because I'm not one.
But honestly, like you might know more than like some women know. So it's like it really is crazy. Like I truly don't think a lot of people know about this yet, and I feel like it's still kind of being talked about. So I feel like it's very, very in the early stages
Mm,
of, um, you know, the other thing that's kind of interesting is a lot of people, like I get some comments online, and even in that New York Mag article that kind of went out about cycle syncing, a lot of people are questioning, like, is this legit? Is this backed up by science? And there has not been a lot of science data collected on this yet. So I kind of crack up when people say that, and that's like one comment I get all the time, like this isn't proven by science. I'm like, I've been doing this for over a year now, and I feel so much better doing this. And this isn't like an invasive procedure. This isn't like a medication. This is really just small life, like small changes that you can make in your lifestyle that can add up to a very huge impact on how you feel mentally and physically. So like when I first started hearing about this method, I was like, oh, cool. Like I don't have to take a pill. I don't have to go in for surgery. Like this is something that I have control over. That doesn't cost anything. Like
mhm.
it really just is like effort. So when I do get those comments, I kind of crack up. I'm like, well, why don't you try it yourself and see how you feel? Like it doesn't hurt to try it. But I do think this is just like the tip of the iceberg with like just certain research that should be completed. And there's a lot of women's health topics that just have not been researched in the past. So I
Mhm.
think we're like very, very behind in things like that people don't realize.
You're absolutely right. When I was doing my interviews, um, I had to develop a question which essentially asked the female athletes, like, are you aware of anywhere that you can get information based on your menstrual cycle or period? And they're like, no. I mean, there's some on TikTok, Instagram, whatever, but I think it's very general. Like that was their answer, and
Right.
I was just like, why isn't this more talked about? Because it's something that happens every month.
Right. And like truth be told too, none of any like this whole subject or any of these things, like learning about your cycle, like I just talked about seeing my doctor for like my annual exam. I've never talked about this in a doctor's appointment. Like I don't know if like med students or they learn about like this type of thing in school or like educating patients around this stuff. Like I think it's that new that it's really not being talked about in those ways. And like I said to you, I had heard about this online, and then I started doing my own research, and like this has all been for me self-taught. Like I didn't learn this from a
Mhm.
doctor. I didn't learn this in school. Like it's just so early on, and I feel like there's so much work that needs to be done. So I'm definitely excited to see where some of this stuff goes, but I think it's just very early on, and I just crack up when people question like, "There's no science." I'm like, because they haven't spent any time like focusing on this. Like there will be in the future. So
Um, I don't know how much I can say this, but when I approached someone about the sort of research that I wanted to do, a lot of the comments that I get is because women are so unpredictable in terms of their cycles, it's kind
mm-hmm.
of a hard area to do it. That's why there's not a lot of research onto it. And
Right,
I've kind of been discouraged to do it, but at the same time, I'm like, it's hard, yes, but that's why it needs done because like it's unpredictable, yes, but that's why it needs done because like although not one size fits all, but at least having some information out there is better than having none. And
right,
academia, you'll know yourself, is very controlled. Very, it has to be everything exact, or it doesn't work for the research part. And it's I'm just like, but then what else are we? What else are we missing?
right. Yeah, and I recently, like earlier this year, had learned about that too, which I never knew about. Like, just even like certain research experiments or like drug trials or medication trials and all this stuff. Like, most women, menstruating women, aren't involved in that just because they said it's too hard to, all the different variables that go on month to month with us. It's really hard to incorporate into the research data, but then like things affect us so differently. So it's like no wonder why women are so confused about so many things. It's
Mm-hmm.
like because a lot of research isn't focused on us and kind of like what's going on. And not even just like how we relate to different like products or different medications or different, research examples, but um there's just like I keep saying like the education, like women don't even understand what's going on because they're not even being educated about what's going on. So
100%. Do you want to know some interesting and infuriating facts?
sure.
Which, when I learned them, I was like, that's pretty shit. So women, when they go to the GP or doctor or anything and get prescribed medication, it's exactly half of what a man gets because you
Oh
in
really?
research are seen as little men. Um, during obviously women give birth, men don't. The
Mhm.
only reason yous have contraceptives is because yous have 9 months worth of side effect if you get pregnant. A man
Mhm.
doesn't. So there's
Right.
no point in giving us a contraceptive when we don't have the symptoms or sort of side effects from it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, when I found out, I was like, that's crazy because it's like
It's
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 wild. I get
wild. Yeah. There's just so many things, and even with birth control that's, insane to me is that's just like another thing that I feel like a lot of people just aren't educated on. Like they're just put on it by their doctor, and their doctor doesn't go through like, what it is, what side effects you can have from it. I was on it for like 4 or 5 years and I felt awful on it. And I thought it was just like myself personally feeling awful. And I didn't even think about a medication affecting me the way that that did. And if I had known, what to look for, maybe like this isn't supposed to feel this way, years
mhm.
before, I probably could have saved myself a lot of tears and a lot of feeling like total crap on that. That's just like that's like a whole other topic that I feel like we could go down a rabbit hole and talk about. But uh, yeah, it's just
No,
that's a whole other thing.
it's pretty infuriating because like obviously I'm a man, so like the treatment is fine for me, but like
Right.
the thing is like I got into this sort of area because of my lecturer. And when she was talking about all this stuff, I was like, nah, that's not true. That's a lie. Like obviously women get researched on. Like these are half of the population. That's what are you talking about? But then it wasn't until she challenged me that I was like, well, actually no, she's got a point. And
Yeah.
I was like, it was like a light bulb switch, and I was like, that should not be happening. Like I find it
Yeah.
unfair, and I think that's why I kind of want to do something because like it's just crazy that there's nothing out there on it.
Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping for. With just sharing more about this and getting people talking about this more, that there'll be more of a focus on this, be more research directed towards this, more money, directed towards research like this and like funding for this type of thing. And I actually recently saw a TikTok of a guy talking about like this stuff, and he was like, "Did you know women go through that?" And like, so like even when guys find this stuff out, they're like mind blown. So like, I'm just so happy this is getting talked about more. More both men and women are finding
Mm,
out more about this. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And like I said before, I feel like we're like just at the beginning, and this is just like the tip of the iceberg of um, you know, the the science that can be researched about this, and I feel like there just really hasn't been a lot of time spent on this yet. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
100%. If anyone wants to fund my research, I would be over the moon.
That'd be amazing.
It's expensive.
If I could, I'd fund your entire research project. I wish I could.
No, I am trying to look for ways, and it is hard, but we'll get there. We will get there. Um, we were previously speaking about rapid fire questions. This is a
Oh
Christmas
yeah.
episode, so we're going to get a little bit Christmassy.
All
So I've
right.
got some 5 questions for you,
Okay.
rapid fire. What's your favorite holiday tradition?
This is kind of a weird one, but Christmas Eve, my family always does sushi takeout on Christmas
Ooh.
Eve. It's kind of random, but one thing we started probably about like 10 years ago. So we'll do sushi takeout from a local spot that we love. We'll do like a little glass of champagne to kind of like toast for Christmas. So that's kind of like my very random Christmas Eve family tradition.
Nice. What's the what's your favorite sushi like piece?
There's I the place that we order from has a ton of specialty rolls, so I love like the big specialty rolls. But if we're talking just like a plain piece, I love like a spicy salmon. That's just kind of like my
Mm,
go-to favorite. Yeah.
nice. Spicy salmon. I had tuna as well. That was really nice.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
I love
there's some
tuna
like
too.
um prawn, king prawn as well, like that.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm not picky when it comes to sushi. Like I will try anything. So
Mm, yeah. Best Christmas memory.
best Christmas memory. I feel like the best memories I've had, like thinking like back to childhood Christmases, was always a Christmas that it was snowing that
Mm,
morning. I feel like which hasn't happened in a while. But thinking back to when I was a kid was waking up Christmas morning, seeing the snow out there, and like sledding during the day. Like that was like my favorite thing on any given Christmas.
nice. We probably previously spoke about this as well, but the differences in traditions. So I'm
Hmm.
Portuguese, and obviously you're American. Our Christmas, like we open our gifts, a gift opening is on the 24th of
Oh really?
December. Yeah. So essentially, we're supposed to see Santa Claus. Santa Claus comes, gives you your present, like in hand, and then you open it, and then he leaves.
Oh, so you physically see him delivering the
Yeah.
gift?
But
Interesting.
with some of my family members' patients, we open them at 10, 11 o'clock at night,
Oh
which
my god.
early night, and then we go to bed. What's
Oh
your
my
sort of
god.
Christmas day like?
Yeah, so I feel like so with my family specifically, Christmas Eve we do the sushi takeout and like hang out, but we will do like one gift on Christmas Eve, and it's usually just like gifts we've given each other, just like something
Mm,
small we can open. And then Christmas Day is, opening the rest of the gifts and most of the gifts from Santa and everything. So as a kid, I remember like looking at the Santa tracker online and making sure I knew where he was for waking up on Christmas Day, knowing where he was going to be. But yeah, usually it was like maybe open one gift Christmas Eve just to get like a little flavor of the gifts for the year, and then it would be like the all the rest of the gifts on Christmas Day is usually how we
yeah,
did it. Yeah.
I like that. What's your favorite Christmas film?
My all-time favorite is The Christmas Story. I feel like it's such a
Mm,
classic. I love that movie so much. I like watch it. I watch it every year on Christmas Day. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And they just came out with like I guess the more updated version, like a second one. So I feel like that's probably my favorite.
nice. Do you have like a couple different films that you'll watch throughout this month, or is it just like do you just wait for Christmas?
No, I'll definitely be watching them all month long. Like I feel like it's hard not to. Like Netflix really pushes like, oh,
Mm,
here's all these like Hallmark type movies that they're pushing all month long. So I'm trying to think. I just watched Love Actually, which is like a classic. Trying to think what else. Obviously The Grinch is a
mm.
classic. Love watching that.
Have you watched Klaus? Klaus?
No. I don't think
That's
I've
an
seen that
amazing
one.
film.
I'll have to put
Amazing
that on my
film.
list. Yeah,
Um,
usually I'm
eh,
watching them all month long.
nice. When was your Christmas tree up? Actually, this is a very solid question.
This was I went out and bought my Christmas tree. I got it. It's a real tree. Every year I do a real tree. I love getting a
Okay.
real tree. We went out the day after Thanksgiving. So I feel like
Mm,
it's weird in the states. There's like a really big debate over this of putting up your Christmas tree before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving feels like such a fall holiday, and then I feel like Christmas is totally different. So to me, I start getting things organized, and then the second that it's the day after Thanksgiving, I'm having my trees up, my lights are on, the ornaments are on, and then like all the rest of my Christmas decorations are up. But yeah, it's usually like day after Thanksgiving, my whole house is like totally transformed into to Christmas. So
fair, fair. This is a controversial one across here. I don't know what it's like in America. Harry Potter, the first one, Christmas film or not Christmas film?
Harry Potter.
Hmm.
Mm, I love Harry Potter, but I don't know if I would think that it's a Christmas film.
Okay, so I think it's a Christmas film because in Portugal it gets played on Christmas Day. That's
Okay,
the first one. But technically speaking, to be a Christmas film, it has to have Christmas in it.
right.
The first Harry Potter has Christmas in it. So
I guess
technically
that
it's a Christmas film.
I guess that checks out.
But a lot of
I
people
feel like
argue with me on it.
I feel like I could go either way because mostly when I think of Harry Potter, I feel like I always think of like fall, Halloween time. Like
Mm.
that's kind of what makes me think of Harry Potter. But you know, if they have Christmas in it, I'll give it to you. I feel like I could go either way with that.
I debate so many people on this. It's one hill I will die on.
I think that's like in the U.S. people say, is it like the movie Die Hard, which I haven't seen. People argue that that's a
Yeah,
Christmas movie. I don't think it is. Yeah,
I also don't think it is. To be fair,
yeah,
I've watched it, but not recently, so I kind of forgot what actually happens in it.
yeah, yeah. I
So
don't think it is.
you spoke about the tradition that you have on Christmas Eve. I'm kind of wondering about both. But what's your favorite Christmas dinner sides?
Oh gosh, sides. I'm even trying to think of like last year what we did for dinner. My mom's an amazing cook, and I think we did like a fillet, and then
Ooh.
she did like mashed potatoes on the side, and probably like a few veggies. Maybe we did like roasted Brussels sprouts, something like that. I'm trying to think, but I feel like mashed potatoes are always just like my favorite. Any kind of potato, I'm in. That's like my
Mm,
favorite side dish. So I feel like that would be my favorite.
fair. We actually got some homemade potatoes gifted to us
Ooh,
recently, and I'm excited to get into them.
that sounds amazing. Sounds right up
Yeah,
my alley.
yeah, I love like homegrown produce. I think
Hmm.
like when I eventually get a house that's not flat, that's something I'm just gonna make a massive garden.
Oh, that's my goal in life is to have a huge garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a yard yet, but next place when we eventually end up somewhere more permanent, I want to have like a huge garden and grow a bunch of stuff because I love fresh herbs.
Mm,
In the summer, I love like fresh tomatoes and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely my life's goal is to have a garden.
fair. Some chickens as well. Love chickens.
Yeah,
Free eggs.
I've never personally owned chickens, but I feel like from like people I've talked to that have them, absolutely love it. Like I feel like I would love to have some chickens. I mean, ultimately, I would love to just buy a huge farm over here and
Mm,
basically live on a farm and just have some animals and have chickens and a huge garden. That kind of sounds like the dream.
yeah, that's the same as me. My grandparents had chickens, so I grew up sort of in that type of environment, and I loved chasing after them. So that
Oh
was
my
fun.
god, that's hilarious.
No, perfect. Thank you so much for coming on again.
Yeah,
If
thanks
you
for
just
having
let
me.
people know what you're up to and where to find you.
Yeah, so they can follow along. I'll be posting on TikTok every day for the next 25 days for my 25 days of cycle syncing. So they can follow along on there. And yeah, I'm on TikTok at Anna Trim. So you can find me there. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. I usually try and respond. So yeah, that's where they can find me.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Peace.
All right.